Here we explore the human experience through the mind, the body, and the soul. Mind Lounge is not about answers. It's about insight. Settle in. Open your mind. Let the conversation begin.
I want to start today with a scenario, and I need you to be honest because something like this happened to me just last week, and it's really been rattling around in my head.
Okay, I'm all ears. Lay it on me.
All right, so I'm at this dinner party. It's a friend of a friend kind of thing, so I don't know most of the people there. And on paper, everything is perfect. You know,
Yeah.
The lighting is warm, there's some chill jazz playing, the whole apartment smells like garlic and butter, which, I mean, that usually solves about 80% of my problems right there.
Pretty good start, yeah. Hard to be mad at garlic and butter.
Right. It's a foolproof recipe for a good evening. And then I get introduced to this guy. We'll just call him Dave.
Okay, Dave.
And Dave is smiling. He has a really firm, confident handshake. He's making great eye contact. He asks me about my week, seems genuinely interested. He's laughing at my jokes, even the ones I know for a fact are not that funny. He is, by every conceivable social metric, a totally delightful human being.
I feel a bug coming.
A massive but. Every single alarm bell in my body is just screaming, run!
Yeah.
Just get away from this person. And it wasn't a thought, you know? It was a physical thing. My stomach clenched up, the hair on my arms was standing on end. I actually found it hard to look him in the eye for more than a couple of seconds.
And you had no idea why.
None. And I felt so guilty about it. I'm standing there having this internal monologue like, what is wrong with you? Why are you being such a jerk? This guy is perfectly nice.
So did you stick around?
Yeah, I did. I stayed for maybe an hour, felt completely weird the whole time, and then made up some excuse and left early. But it really, really bothered me. Was I just being judgmental? Was I in a bad mood and projecting it onto him? Or was there something actually happening there that I couldn't put my finger on?
So what you're describing is probably one of the most universal and yet most misunderstood experiences in all of human interaction. Mm-hmm. We almost always dismiss it. We call it a hunch or bad vibes, or we just tell ourselves we're being irrational and need to get over it.
Exactly. My exact words to myself were, you're being irrational.
But here's the thing. What if I told you that feeling, it isn't magic. It's not some psychic ability you have. It isn't random noise. It's actually a high-speed data processing algorithm that is running on a nervous system that has been aggressively trained, for one thing, survival.
Okay, hold on. That sounds a whole lot more intense than just bad vibes. You're saying my nervous system was running an algorithm on Dave.
I am, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to unpack that hidden layer of human interaction. We tend to think that communication is all about the words, what you said to Dave, what Dave said back to you. But there's a whole sub-language happening right beneath the surface. It's a language of microsignals, of nervous system regulation, of deeply ingrained defense mechanisms.
So we're talking about like body language, reading tells.
We're going so much deeper than just body language. We're going into the fundamental psychology of safety. And in this whole dynamic, there are usually two main characters at play. Two archetypes, really.
Characters, like in a play.
Exactly like in a play. And I have a hunch, based on your story about Dave, that you might find yourself identifying with the first one a little more than you think.
Uh-oh. Okay. Who are the players on this stage?
First, we have the reader. This is the human lie detector. The person in the room who knows you're sad before you even feel it yourself, or knows you're lying before the sentence is even out of your mouth.
Okay. The reader. And the second character.
The second is the masked, which, to be fair, is often all of us at some point or another. But for our purposes, we're looking at people who use these complex, almost artistic, psychological disguises to hide who they really are underneath.
So the reader is trying to see the truth, and the masked is trying to hide the truth.
That is the eternal dance of human interaction. And today, we are going to decode it. We're not just going to look at behavior, at the what. We're going to look at the why behind the what. We're going to explore how things like trauma can actually train a brain to read micro-expressions with incredible accuracy. Why our personalities are often just sophisticated suits of armor. And we're even going to break down a mathematical equation It's called the Orion principle, and it basically quantifies our deepest insecurities.
Wait. You're telling me there is math involved in my social anxieties?
There is absolutely math involved. It's an entire hidden calculus.
That is both terrifying and utterly fascinating. Okay, let's start with this reader character. Because when you describe someone who just knows things, my brain immediately goes to the word intuition. Or, maybe even psychics. Is that what this is? Some people just have a kind of sixth sense.
It's a great question, and we use that word intuition all the time. You hear about women's intuition, a mother's intuition, gut instinct. But often, intuition is just a lazy label we slap onto a process we don't fully understand. It makes it sound mystical.
Right, like it's magic.
But what's really happening is something far more scientific. It's hyperpattern recognition.
Hyperpattern recognition. Okay, break that down for me. What does that mean?
Imagine your brain as a computer. For most people, when they're in a social setting like your dinner party, that computer is running pretty standard software. It's listening to the words being said. It's looking at general facial expressions, making sure their fly isn't down, just the basic stuff.
Right. Standard operating procedure. Don't be weird. Make small talk.
Exactly. But for the reader, that computer is overclocked. It's running at maximum capacity all the time. It is processing thousands of tiny data points per second that most other people's brains just filter out as irrelevant noise.
What kind of data points are we talking about?
Oh, everything. The slight twitch of an eyelid that lasts a tenth of a second. A 2% change in vocal pitch on a specific word. The way someone's breathing is a little too shallow. The timing of a laugh. Was it half a second too late to feel genuine? The reader's brain aggregates all these tiny, seemingly invisible details and synthesizes them into a single powerful conclusion. This person is dangerous, or this person is lying, or this person is in pain.
And this all happens instantly, like without conscious thought.
Faster than conscious thought.
Yeah.
That's precisely why you felt that urge to run from Dave before you could even begin to articulate why. Your subconscious brain had already processed all the data, run the numbers, and sent the danger signal straight to your gut.
Okay, but why? Why do some people have this supercomputer brain and other people are just, blissfully oblivious? Is it genetic? Do you just get born with it?
It can be. There's definitely a genetic component to sensitivity, but more often than not, this so-called superpower has an origin story. And it's usually not a very happy one.
I feel like you're about to tell me this all comes back to trauma.
It's what we call being trained by chaos.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the background of people who have this kind of high-level, almost uncanny intuition, you almost always find a history of an unpredictable, emotionally unstable, or chaotic environment, usually in their childhood.
So they didn't just wake up one day with this ability, it was learned.
It wasn't just learned, it was necessary for survival. Imagine you are a 7-year-old kid, and one of your parents is volatile. Maybe they struggle with addiction. Maybe they have a really bad temper. Maybe they're just incredibly moody and unpredictable.
So the emotional ground is always shifting under your feet.
It's like living on a fault line. In that kind of house, you can't afford to be oblivious. You can't just come skipping through the front door after school, singing a song and dropping your bag on the floor. The first thing you have to do is stop. You have to listen.
You're checking the atmosphere.
You are doing a full diagnostic for survival. You learn to recognize the specific sound of the car pulling into the driveway. Is it coming in too fast? Did the engine rev? You learn to listen to the footsteps coming down the hallway. Are they heavy? Are they quick and angry? You learn that the way the keys hit the kitchen counter tells you everything you need to know about whether you're going to have a nice dinner or whether you need to go hide in your room for the rest of the night.
Wow. Yeah, that image of the keys on the counter, that brings up a very specific feeling.
That feeling is hypervigilance.
Yeah.
Your nervous system learns at a very deep level that safety is not a guarantee. Safety is something you have to constantly calculate every single second of every single day. So you develop this internal radar. You become a living barometer for emotional pressure.
But then, you grow up, you move out of that house, you escape the chaos.
You move out of the house, but you don't uninstall the software.
That's the kicker, isn't it?
It really is. I like to use the analogy of a weather app on your phone. Most of us, we check the weather app when we want to know if we need to bring an umbrella. We open it, we look, we see, 50% chance of rain, and then we close it and get on with our day.
Right. It's just the tool you use when you need it.
For the reader, that weather app is never closed. It is running in the foreground 24/7. It is constantly refreshing, constantly scanning the horizon. Is the atmospheric pressure dropping? Is a storm coming? Is the mood in this room about to shift? Even when they are objectively safe, Even at a nice dinner party with jazz music and garlic bread, that radar is spinning.
So they are constantly vibe checking every single room they walk into.
Constantly. And because they've been doing it since they were small, they are absolute experts at it. They are the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours masters of reading human emotion.
You know, that explains why it feels so physically exhausting. I have friends who are like this, and I think I'm like this sometimes. And you leave a totally normal social interaction feeling like you just ran a marathon.
Because you did. You ran a cognitive marathon. You weren't just eating cheese and crackers with Dave. You were simultaneously tracking the emotional state of every single person in that room, cross-referencing their behavior with past experiences, and calculating future threat probabilities.
So when a reader meets someone new, they're not really listening to the polite conversation.
Not at all. They are, in a sense, hearing the other person's nervous system. They're bypassing the words, because words are so easy to fake, and they're looking for the leakage.
The leakage, what's that?
The truth that leaks out around the edges when we try to hide it. The micro-expressions. If you ask someone, hey, how's your marriage? And they say, oh, it's great. But for a split second, their shoulder creates a tiny micro-shrug, and the corner of their lip tightens into a sneer.
Huh.
The reader sees the shrug and the tightness, not the word great. They read the body, not the script.
And is that why people find a reader so disarming? I've definitely had this happen where I meet someone for the first time, and 10 minutes later, I'm telling them things I haven't even told my therapist.
Yes. That's what we call the confessional effect. It's because the reader has already signaled to you on a completely subconscious level, I see you. I see the pain you're trying to hide. And for most of us walking around wearing these heavy masks all day, the feeling of being truly seen is so rare and so profoundly relieving that we spill everything.
It really does sound like a superpower. I mean, honestly, being able to read people that accurately, that sounds incredibly useful. But you said earlier that there's a cost.
Oh, there's a massive cost.
Yeah.
Because this algorithm, this survival software, it has a default setting. And that setting is assume the worst.
So it's the paranoid android from Hitchhiker's Guide.
Think about it from a simple engineering standpoint. If you were designing a security system for a high-risk environment, like a bank vault, do you want that system to be optimistic?
Definitely not. No.
No. You want it to be paranoid. You would much rather have 100 false alarms, oh, it was just the wind, oh, that was just the cat, than miss one single actual intruder. Because missing that one intruder gets you hurt. Or worse. So the reader's brain is built to prioritize false alarms over the risk of missing a genuine threat.
So they're essentially seeing threats everywhere, even where there aren't any.
They see potential threats everywhere. And this brings us right back to your friend Dave, the too nice red flag.
Yes, explain this to me. Why on earth did Nice Dave set off my internal alarm system?
To a reader, nice is already a little bit suspicious, but too nice.
Yeah,
that is absolutely terrifying.
But I mean, aren't some people just genuinely nice?
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the reader's internal database, their entire history of lived experience, often says otherwise. Their database says, the last time someone was this charming this quickly, they were trying to manipulate me. Or, the last time someone smiled this much without their eyes, they were hiding a massive rage problem.
So the charm and the compliments, it feels like a lure.
Exactly. It feels like the candy house in Hansel and Gretel. It looks delicious on the outside, but the reader's nervous system is convinced there's a witch inside. So when someone is overly agreeable or overly complimentary or trying to build intimacy way too fast, the reader's brain flags it as a mask. It flags it as inauthentic.
And inauthenticity is the real trigger.
Inauthenticity is the #1 danger signal. Even if the person is totally harmless, they might just be nervous or trying too hard to be liked. But the reader senses that gap between who they are acting like and who they really are, and that gap registers as a potential threat.
That must make dating an absolute nightmare.
Oh, it's brutal. It's one of the main things that keeps readers single, or it keeps them feeling lonely even when they're in a relationship. Because they can never fully relax. They can't just enjoy the nice dinner. They are constantly scanning for the first sign of betrayal, waiting for the other shoe to drop.
So do they just run away from everyone? Or do they try to figure it out?
They verify. This is the part that people don't often talk about. Readers don't just rely on their gut. They collect data. They engage in what we call covert testing.
Covert testing? Okay, that sounds a little manipulative.
It can be, for sure. But from their perspective, it just feels like necessary due diligence.
Yeah.
They don't rely on blind trust. They rely on data gathering. So they will run these little social experiments, these little simulations, to see how you react under pressure.
Give me an example. What does a covert test actually look like? Am I being tested right now?
You're definitely being tested. Here's a classic one, the fake secret. A reader might drop a small piece of seemingly personal information, something that sounds intimate but actually doesn't matter to them at all. Like, oh, I'm really worried about my aunt's health, or I'm thinking about quitting my job to become a potter.
And then what?
And then they wait. Does that information come back to them from someone else in the social circle? Did you use it as gossip? If you did, you failed the test. You've proven you are not a safe container for real vulnerability.
Ooh, that is sneaky. But I get it.
Or there's the soft boundary test. This is a huge one. They'll say no to something very small and low stakes. Maybe you suggest getting Thai food, and they say, I'm not really feeling Thai tonight. How about we do Italian instead?
That seems like a totally normal interaction.
It is normal, unless you're dealing with someone who has control issues. If your response is to push back, oh, come on, you love Thai food, don't be so difficult. The reader clocks that immediately. Their logic is, if you can't respect a small no about noodles, you will absolutely steamroll a big, important no later on.
Wow. Okay, I see the logic now. It's like testing a rickety-looking bridge with a small rock before you try to walk across it.
Precisely. Or they might share what we call a mild vulnerability. They'll share something slightly embarrassing or a small failure to see if you respond with empathy or with judgment. If you use it as an opportunity to make a joke at their expense, the wall goes up, you're out.
It sounds incredibly lonely, though, to feel like you have to live like a spy in your own life.
It creates a very specific and painful kind of isolation. We sometimes call it having emotional Wi-Fi.
Emotional Wi-Fi. What does that mean?
It means the reader picks up on the emotional charge in a room before anyone has said a single word. Imagine you're at a big family Thanksgiving dinner. Everyone is eating turkey. Everyone is smiling and passing the gravy. But the reader can feel the static electricity in the air. They can feel that the aunt is seething with jealousy over the cousin's promotion. They can feel that the dad is quietly disappointed in his son. They can feel the simmering tension in the marriage across the table.
But nobody is actually saying any of this out loud.
Nobody is saying a word. And that's the part that feels like gaslighting. The reader is reacting to a reality, the palpable tension that everyone else in the room is actively pretending isn't there. So they end up feeling crazy. They're sitting there with a knot in their stomach thinking, am I the only one who feels like this entire room is about to explode?
Well, everyone else is just asking for more mashed potatoes.
Exactly. It's profoundly lonely to be the only one who's living in the subtext.
And I imagine it's impossible to ever be fully present. If you're
Yeah.
constantly analyzing and cross-referencing, you're never just there.
You're almost never there.
Yeah.
You're constantly engaging in what we call time travel. You are never fully in the present moment because you're using your mental energy to cross-reference present data with past trauma in order to predict a future disaster. That takes a tremendous amount of your brain's RAM. You're not enjoying the coffee date, you're calculating the probability of abandonment based on the way he looked at the waitress.
Okay, so that's the reader, the detective, the one who's constantly scanning the room for danger. But what exactly are they scanning for? If they're looking past the surface level stuff, what are they seeing?
They are seeing the disguise. And this brings us to the second half of our deep dive today, the theory of masks.
Masks. We talk about masks a lot in a casual way. Oh, he's just wearing a mask. But you're suggesting this isn't just about acting or being fake. This is the survival mechanism, too.
Absolutely. We really need to reframe what we think of as personality. A lot of what we consider to be our fixed personality, I'm the funny guy, I'm the tough girl, I'm the responsible one, is actually just a shield. It's an inversion pattern.
Inversion pattern. Okay, that sounds technical. What does it mean?
It's a defense mechanism where we become the opposite, the inversion of the thing we're most afraid of being or feeling. We overcompensate to an extreme degree. The mask is specifically designed to protect a very specific, very tender wound.
So we build a fortress that looks like the polar opposite of our own perceived weakness.
You got it. Let's walk through the cast of characters. These are some of those common inversion patterns that the reader spots instantly, but that the rest of us usually fall for.
Okay, lay them out for me. Who do we have in this masquerade ball?
Let's start with a classic, the tough guy, or, the ice queen.
Oh yeah, I know this type. Nothing ever bothers them. They're totally stoic. Their favorite phrase is, I don't care.
I don't care is their mantra. But the reader sees right through that performance, because the inversion pattern tells us that the core fear is the absolute opposite. The tough guy isn't afraid of nothing. He's terrified of hurt.
So the sheer strength of the armor proves there's something incredibly soft inside that needs protecting.
You don't build a fortress around an empty field. You build a fortress to protect gold. Usually this is a person with a deep history of betrayal or humiliation. Maybe they were vulnerable once, maybe they cried in front of a parent or really trusted a partner, and they got absolutely crushed. So the nervous system makes a vow, never again, I will never give anyone the power to hurt me like that. I will be made of stone.
That's actually really tragic when you put it like that.
It is,
Yeah.
but on the outside it just looks like strength.
Okay, what about the opposite of that? The people pleaser. The nice guy or nice girl. The person whose entire goal seems to be making sure everyone else is happy.
Yes. Probably the most common mask of them all.
Yeah.
And by far the most exhausting to wear. The look is agreeable, helpful, selfless. It's the person who always says, yes, of course I could do that. No, it's no problem at all. Whatever you want is fine with me.
I feel personally attacked right now, but please go on. What's the fear behind that mask?
The fear is rejection, but it's even deeper than that. It's a core belief that your very existence is transactional.
Transactional.
The people pleaser fundamentally believes, I am only worthy of taking up space in this world if I am useful to others. If I stop being useful, if I stop fixing their problems, if I stop saying yes to everything, I will be abandoned.
It's the idea that I have to earn my keep.
Exactly. I have to pay rent for my own existence. This often comes from a childhood of what we call parentification. Being the kid who felt responsible for managing your parents' emotions, you learn, if I'm a good boy, mom won't be sad. Or if I'm quiet, dad won't start yelling.
So in the workplace, this is the person who says yes to taking on that extra project, even though they are already completely drowning in work.
And they do it with a smile. But underneath that smile, there is a simmering resentment. Because they have signed a secret contract in their head. The contract says, I will sacrifice myself for you, and in return, you will love me and appreciate me and never ever leave me. But the problem is, nobody else signed that contract. So when people just take the help and don't give the unspoken love back, the people pleaser feels deeply betrayed.
Ugh. That concept of the invisible contract is huge. Okay, next one. The judgy friend. The critic. The person who is always observing what everyone else is doing wrong. Can you believe she wore that? I would never raise my kids that way.
This is a classic deflection mask. It's the look over there strategy. The outward look is one of moral superiority. I know better. But the fear, the deep hidden fear is their own shame.
Explain that connection for me.
The judgy friend is almost always carrying a massive, crushing load of internal guilt, shame, or feelings of inadequacy. The voice inside their own head is incredibly cruel to them. So to get a momentary break from beating themselves up, they project that judgment outward onto others.
It's like a spotlight.
It's exactly like a spotlight. If I shine the bright spotlight of judgment on your outfit or your parenting choices, then for a little while, the spotlight isn't on my own failures. It's a powerful safety mechanism. If I'm the judge, I cannot be the defendant.
If I am the judge, I cannot be the defendant.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense. It's almost mathematical.
It is. The psychology is very logical.
Okay, what about the overachiever? The person who is always busy, always working, the grind set person, always chasing the next promotion, the next goal.
This is the mask of doing to avoid being. The outward look is success, ambition, drive. But the fear is the void.
The void. That sounds dramatic.
It feels dramatic. It's that internal feeling of not being enough. If the overachiever ever stops moving, if they have a Saturday with nothing scheduled, the silence becomes deafening. And in that silence, the voice creeps in. You're lazy. You're a failure. You're worthless without your accomplishments. So they run. They use success and busyness as sandbags to hold back the flood of their own insecurity.
So the trophy case is actually a barricade.
A barricade against their own self-loathing.
Yes. Okay, one more. This one's interesting. The class clown. The life of the party.
This one, to me, breaks my heart the most. The look is funny, lighthearted, witty. Nothing is ever serious. But the fear is being seen as fragile.
The old laugh to keep from crying routine.
It's exactly that. The logic is, if I can make you laugh, I am in control of the interaction. If I make myself the punchline first, you can't hurt me because I beat you to it. But deep down, they are terrified that if they ever stopped being funny, if they ever showed their real sadness or their real struggles, people would just look away. They don't trust that they are lovable when they are sad.
It's incredible. Once you lay these out, you really can't unsee them. It feels like you suddenly have X-ray specs for every social interaction you've ever had.
That's what the reader has naturally. They see the fear hiding behind the behavior.
So if I want to develop this X-ray vision, or maybe just, understand why my boss is acting like a complete lunatic, are there general rules to this? Or is it all just vibes?
There are absolutely rules. I like to call them the cheat codes to the human operating system. If you remember nothing else from this whole deep dive, remember these 2 rules.
Okay, I'm ready. Lay it on me. Rule number 1.
Rule number 1 is the hardest effort. You need to look at what someone is trying the hardest to show you.
What do you mean by that?
Is someone trying really, really hard to convince you that they are smart? Using big words, constantly correcting people. Or are they trying really hard to show you that they're rich? Or that they're alpha and in control?
Yeah, we all know the guy at the party who somehow manages to mention his salary 3 times in one conversation.
That effort, that's the tell. The rule is this: what they are broadcasting the loudest is exactly what they fear they don't have.
So the guy who won't stop bragging about his money actually feels poor.
Or he feels financially insecure. Or, more likely, he feels that without his money, he is nothing. His value is conditional. Think about it. If you are truly, deeply confident in your own intelligence, you don't need to perform it for everyone. You just are. The performance is the proof of the insecurity.
Okay, that's a really good one. What's rule number 2?
Rule number 2 is the mirror. This goes back to our judgy friend. What someone attacks most viciously in others is almost always what they're suppressing in themselves.
Can you give me a really concrete example of that?
Sure. Let's say you have a colleague at work who is just irrationally angry about people being lazy.
Yeah.
They go in these long rants about it. Nobody wants to work hard anymore. Look at that guy taking another break.
Yeah, that's a pretty common complaint.
I will guarantee you that person is exhausted. They are on the verge of burnout. They are terrified of their own deep desire to just rest. They have suppressed their own lazy part so deeply and for so long that seeing it expressed freely in someone else triggers a rage response. They're not attacking the other person. They're attacking the part of themselves they wish they could let out.
So they're actually jealous of the laziness.
They are jealous of the permission to stop. It's a profound envy.
This is so deep. But you promised me math. You said there was an actual equation for all of this, the Orion principle.
Yes, the Orion principle.
Oh.
This is where we take these vague psychological concepts and we try to put them into a formula. It helps us quantify the size and the shape of the mask.
Okay, you're going to need to go really slow here. I barely passed algebra.
We use a whiteboard analogy. Imagine we're writing out an equation for a specific person. Let's invent a character. You pick one of the masks.
Okay, let's go with Julian. Julian is our overachiever. He's, say, 35, works in tech, makes a ton of money, and is constantly posting on Instagram about his 4 a.m. ice baths and his productivity hacks.
Perfect. Julian is our subject. So the Orion principle has 4 main variables. First, we have P. That stands for the projected identity. That is the Instagram Julian, the I grind harder than you Julian that he shows to the world.
Got it. P is the billboard he puts up.
Exactly. Next is I. That's the internalized ideal. This is the impossible standard that Julian holds himself to. This is the voice of his critical father or society or his business school professor all rolled into one. It's the voice in his head that says, I should be a billionaire by 40. I should be perfectly optimized. I should be invincible.
Okay. So P is what he shows the world, and I is what he thinks he should be.
Then we get to the most important variable of all, S. That's the suppressed self. This is the shadow. This is the part of Julian that he is terrified is actually true. It's the voice that whispers, I am actually exhausted. I am actually mediocre. I am actually just a scared kid who has no idea what he's doing.
That's the dark secret he's running from.
And finally, we have M. M is the mask behavior. These are the literal actions he takes to try and balance this impossible equation. The ice baths, the 80-hour work weeks, the constant posting online.
Okay, so we have P, I, S, and M. What's the formula? How do they all relate to each other?
The formula is this, and it's actually quite simple. The greater the distance between I, the internalized ideal, and S, the suppressed self, the more extreme the M, the mask behavior becomes, and the louder the P, the projection has to be.
Okay, let me see if I can apply this to Julian. So Julian's ideal, I, is I am a god of productivity, but his suppressed self, S, is I'm barely holding it together. That is a huge gap, a massive gap.
It's a chasm. The distance between God and barely holding it together is a psychological Grand Canyon.
So because that canyon is so incredibly wide?
Because that canyon is so wide, the bridge, which is the mass behavior, It has to be massive and extreme to span it. He can't just work hard. He has to work obsessively. He can't just be healthy. He has to do ice baths and extreme biohacking. The behavior has to be extreme to cover the extreme gap in his self-perception.
And that also makes the projection get louder.
He has to tell everyone about it.
Yeah.
The projection becomes a desperate attempt to convince you that the mask is real so that he can convince himself.
So what about if I meet someone who is just quiet? Someone who is clearly successful but doesn't talk about it, who just seems content.
That tells you that the gap is small. Their internalized ideal isn't, I have to be a god. Their ideal is probably something more like, I'm doing my best. And their suppressed self, S, isn't, I'm garbage. It's just, I'm human and I have flaws. When the gap between who I think I should be and who I fear I am is small, you don't need a huge performative mask. You could just be.
The volume of the performance turns way down.
Authenticity is quiet. Insecurity is loud.
Authenticity is quiet. Insecurity is loud. I'm writing that one down. But this leads me to a kind of a depressing thought. We have the reader who's exhausted from constantly standing. We have the masked like Julian who is exhausted from constantly performing. It sounds like everyone is just tired.
We are. We are a society of deeply exhausted people performing for other exhausted people.
And there's a huge cost to this, isn't there? We talked about the reader's cost, which is loneliness and anxiety. But what is the cost for Julian? What's the cost for the people pleaser?
The ultimate cost is that the mask actually prevents the very thing we are so desperate to get. Think about it. Why do we wear these masks in the first place? To be loved, to be safe, to belong.
Right. The core belief is, if I'm perfect, then they will love me.
But here is the profound tragedy of it. If you wear a mask to get love, and then you get the love, you can't actually receive it. It can't get in. Because, on a deep level, they aren't loving you. They're loving the mask. Let's go back to the people pleaser. Let's call her Sarah. Sarah bends over backwards to be the easygoing friend, and everyone loves her for it. Oh, Sarah's the best. She's so chill. She's always up for anything. But Sarah feels incredibly profoundly lonely because she knows that if she stopped being chill, if she ever showed her actual needs or had a difficult opinion, that love might disappear in an instant. So she is trapped in a cage of her own making. She is surrounded by friends, but she is completely invisible.
That's the isolation of invisibility.
Exactly. Even when people are hugging you, they are hugging the armor, not the person who's trapped inside. And then you have the tough guy. Their cost is what we call the burden of strength.
The person who can never, ever ask for help.
Never. Because asking for help would break the mask of invulnerability. So they carry the divorce, the depression, the financial stress, all of it, completely alone. They are surrounded by people who rely on them, but they have no one they can lean on. And that leads to burnout, to heart attacks, to deep, quiet despair.
And what about the general cost for all of us, for society?
The cost is a fundamental lack of authenticity. Real connection, the kind of connection that actually heals our nervous system, the kind that makes us feel truly safe and seen, requires a crack in the armor. There's a famous Leonard Cohen lyric, "There is a crack in everything, that's how the light gets in."
I love that line.
It's profoundly psychologically true. If you present yourself to the world as a sealed fortress, no light can get in, but no love can get in either. You are safe, yes, but you are starving to death inside your own walls.
So if we want to stop starving, we have to be willing to take the mask off.
We have to risk it, even just a little bit.
But that's terrifying. I mean, you're asking the reader to stop scanning for danger, and you're asking the masked person to show their soft, vulnerable belly. That goes against every survival instinct we have.
It feels like death. To the ego, taking off the mask feels like you are literally going to die. The primal brain is screaming, if I show them that I'm weak, they will kill me. But the only way to prove that primal brain wrong is to do it and survive.
It's like exposure therapy for the soul.
Exactly. For the reader, the challenge is this. Can you turn the weather app off for one dinner? Can you walk into a room and make a conscious choice? I am not going to predict the future. I am just going to be here in this moment. If something bad happens, I will trust my future self to handle it then, not now.
Trusting your future self to handle the future, that's a big one.
It's huge. And for the mask wearer, for Julian, for Sarah the people pleaser, the challenge is, can you risk showing just a tiny piece of the suppressed self? Can you risk being boring for 5 minutes? Can you risk being selfish about what you want for dinner? Can you risk saying the words, "No, I don't have the bandwidth to do that right now"?
And then you wait and see if the people around you stay.
If they leave, they were only there for the mask anyway.
Yeah.
And that's good information to have. But if they stay, if they say, "Oh, okay, no problem," now you have a chance at real connection. Now you are being loved for you, not for your utility.
That's the holy grail, isn't it?
It is. The unmasked self is the only part of you that can truly connect with another human being. Everything else is just actors on a stage reading lines to each other.
Wow. This has given me so much to think about. I'm thinking about the reader in me, constantly scanning the room. And I'm definitely thinking about the masks I wear. Probably the funny guy mask, let's be real.
Humor is a very effective shield.
It's the best one. But I want to leave our listeners with a final thought that really stuck with me while we were prepping for this. We spend so much of our lives curating who we are. Our social media profiles, our resumes, our dating app bios, we are constantly polishing the mask. But if all of that is just the Orion principle at work, if it's all just a complex calculation to hide our fear.
It raises a really provocative question, and I want you, everyone listening, to really sit with this tonight. If the person you are presenting to the world is just a calculation designed to avoid pain, have you ever actually introduced yourself to anyone?
War.
Or have they only ever met your bodyguard?
Everybody that you meet is holding something underneath. A hidden bruise, a quiet fear, a story you won't ever hear. We only catch the surface shine, not the worries on their mind, the things they lost along the way, the words they never got to say. So don't be fooled by how they seem, or what they show or what they mean. It's just a reminder, we're all trying to get through. Every heart is hiding something tender, something true. Behind every heartbeat, behind every move, we all just wanna be loved, yeah, loved as we are. That's the simple, beautiful truth. Everybody's got a place they don't let anyone else face, a quiet corner in their chest where old regrets still try their best. And sometimes people come off tough, but that's just fear dressed up as rough, a little armor that they built to cover up the sweetest guilt. So when they stumble, when they break, remember what's at stake. It's just a reminder, we're all trying to get through. Every heart is hiding something tender, something true. Behind every heartbeat, behind every move, we all just wanna be loved, yeah, loved as we are. That's the simple, beautiful truth. Maybe if we all look twice, we learn that love can melt the ice. It's just a reminder, we're all trying to get through. Every heart is hiding something tender, something true. Behind every heartbeat, behind every move, we all just wanna be loved, yeah, loved as we are. That's the simple, beautiful